Hey everybody, it's good to be back, day number 4 for our 21-day full life reset. I have a special guest here today and you are going to be completely shocked. We're going to be talking about some core issues. I have Karim Delgado, who's the president of the Brain Training Institute. He is a lifelong computer programmer and hacker, and just like myself, he's a lifelong biohacker. And 7 years ago went from computing, programming computers at the highest level in the world, all over internationally, to programming the human body. This is going to be a great treat because today we're going to talk about things that are affecting people: stress, anger. We're going to specifically talk about tinnitus for those of you who may have it. So if you have somebody out there who needs to hear about tinnitus, get them online right now. We're going to talk about sleep issues. And we got one more topic.
Concussions, sleep issues.
Concussions and traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah.
So traumatic brain injuries, concussions, tinnitus, and sleep issues are primary topics. And then we're actually going to do some fascial maneuvers, but we're going to do them in a seated position for those of you guys who haven't seen this yet. So guys, I'm just really super excited. I'm super honored. And I told you as part of our program is we'll be bringing experts and fields in all over the world in all different ways of healing the body into our program and on our app. And just if you would like to, you can sign up for our app. It's a community which is non-censored, which is moderated, where you can share and discuss health topics. And you'll find people like Karim and the Brain Training Institute in the app, and you'll be able to interact with them in real time. So we'll be able to help and share and stuff like that. So Karim, we've been recently connected, but we've been long waiting to connect, and we've had a fantastic couple days here in our retreat center. I'll let Karim just give a little bit of background and introduction of himself, so you can hear it right from him.
Oh, thank you, Gary. Karim Delgado, and it's actually, we do have a Brain Institute, an academy, but it's BrainMechanics.
Yes, BrainMechanics.
BrainMechanics.
Yes, sir.
My name is Karim Delgado. I've been 20 years dedicated on R&D, different kind of disciplines, and I guess about 7 years ago, my dad passed away from Alzheimer's and decided that, we wanted to help people reprogram their biology and their thought process so we could prevent issues like Alzheimer's from ever happening again.
And you guys are located in Calgary, right?
We are, yes.
And you guys have some pretty fantastic backers. You've got some of the biggest names in the industry and technology backing you guys. And you're building solutions. So what's the primary drive of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so we've got two main areas that we work on. We're building a health technology platform that allows us to do the big data of the body. So wearables like, integrating like an Oura Ring or a BioStrap or a Whoop or something like that, right? Along with other technologies to really get a big picture of what's going on in the biology. And we use, commercial electronics like I'm wearing now, or even biomedical equipment, to really get a good idea of what's going on in people's physiology 24 hours, 7 days a week. So we've been developing that platform for a while. And then the other side is on the therapeutic side. We're honored to have some of the world leading institutes backing us on really finding therapeutic solutions for big problems, neurological and others. Quite a bit of innovation there. We're now in 11 countries, and we really are focusing on taking a multimodal solution to a lot of the problems that are happening out there. Not just doing biochemical medicine, but bioenergetics medicine, traditional functional medicine, and really game-changing technologies and solutions. For example, what you're working on, right? We really feel like, stress is 75 to 90% of medical conditions are stress-related. Wow, like what you're working on is going to be able to help address that. And I think those are like big levers that we could totally,
Right. Right. I mean, we see. We recognize that. My background, most people know, I'm a lifelong biohacker, but I was also in encryption business and technology, and I just moved my encryption or puzzle-solving business to the body, just like you were in computers, and you moved your puzzle-solving programming to the body. So what we have aspects of stress, and we've been handling them emotionally and physiologically in the response of the body. But then there's the other aspect of how it affects the brain and the neurology. And we've talked about stress so much on ours, and I just want to say that the best way to explain stress from our point of view is people think stress quite often is like their job, their work, their life, their kids, and those aren't stressors. That's not stress. Those are stressors, and stress is our reaction to those things. And we found that if the body is dealing with lots of little issues and malfunctions, it drives the stress response in the body up. And if the stress response in the body is up, it makes pain worse, it makes sleep worse, we don't digest properly, and it's a cascading series of problems. And so you guys see stress in 3 different capacities, right? So
we do. Yeah, so for us, stress, well, before we dive there real quick, so our main objective in BrainMechanics is to help people achieve emotional governance and really get into having a peace, emotional peace, and also neurological, improving their health there, and biological health, so they can perform better, rest better, and live better, right? Those kind of the
right.
things, and really stress. You've got stress that it's not necessarily a bad word, because you have stress that is hermetic stress, like you exercise, you stress a little bit, but that's inducing a change in your biology. It's modulating your biology so you could become a better human being. You could, also stress like a sauna, for example, too. That when you go in the sauna, you create this heat shock proteins, and they help create all these different things that are really helpful for your.
So we need a certain amount of base stress.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so like when we say stress, people just demonize all of stress.
That's right. So there's good stress and bad stress, and then the other part is that stress could also. The problem is that we're now with our senses, we're bombarded with stressors like our phone rings, or every time we get a Facebook notification or whatever. Like all these different things start kind of dinging us and causing this little micro stress, and this micro stress start building up through the day, right? So and then we have situations in our life that are like traumas and things that happen, and then these things actually start building up and compressing us and having these reactions in our bodies, and that's chronic stress. And chronic stress is not good. Like, in fact, chronic stress can build up, and the effects of the chronic stress could actually be passed on to our children. It's called epigenetic stress, right? Transgenerational stress. And this is not woo-woo science. There's actually been proven that the stress is stored in the HPA axis. Right, so if you had people like, for example, during the Holocaust and other times where they're going through these different traumas that are more than 3 months, they pass that on to the offsprings. And right now, one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be here is because I believe that you have a solution that can help with that stress at mass scale, and the world really needs a solution to mass scale. Think about what we're experiencing right now with COVID over a year. Right, this is a trauma that humanity is going through this, where we're not actually engaging with other humans. We need to touch, hug each other. We need that contact, and right now we're depriving ourselves from that. You can argue for whatever reason, but it's happening. So I believe that in the next few months you're gonna have actually maybe 9 months from now, maybe the babies are being born right now, but now you have COVID babies, and these COVID babies are going to be passed on. The stress that parents felt during that time gets passed on to the generation subconsciously through the HPA axis. And
also biologically through the fascia. This fascia is the hard drive for the body, and the fascial connection from the mom is the umbilical cord. And interestingly enough is that if you think about it, we feel from the day that we're created, from the moment of inception. Low ball plasma is about that big, and we grow inside that plasma, and that's the fascia. And then, but we don't have a neocortex until the 9th month. So that means that we feel stress, but we don't have a context. So babies that were conceived during this time, when we have all this stress, they're in a situation where they're being they have their mom's stress and their mom's version, their mom's fears. But they don't have a reason to understand or to logically process that. So their processors don't work the same way. And then they get out into the world, and this is what we find today, is that then we have a response that feels like something that they felt in the womb, and they have a reaction currently in today's world, and it affects the way that they process today's world. That's the thing that we've noticed as well. And so adding to the regular epigenetic stress, we have the biological storage in the fascia. The hard drive of the body.
I agree with that, but actually it's really interesting because I do believe that even though like science says it's HPA, but HPA actually is coded in fascia.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There you go. It's HPA, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I mean, absolutely every organ in your body has fascia, right?
Well, I'm glad we're having this conversation because we talk about genetics, genetic disposition, right? And epigenetics was a way to explain why genetics didn't. If I had a gene to get cancer, I didn't get it. Epigenetics was the way to explain that happened. But I find that in genetic pools, we tend to like if somebody walks into a room and they're angry, you can feel them being angry. Like if my mom was angry at me, like when I came home, my mom's 4'11". If I was angry, I mean, I knew it when I was walking up the sidewalk. I mean, I knew that I was gonna get. See, for all of you guys who are under the age of like 50, you don't know what it's like. But we had like things like rulers and yardsticks. And flying flip-flops, shoes, boomerang, belts. So I could feel her anger when I came into the house, and so a lot of genetic disposition is the stressors on the genes. Well, one of the stressors is I feel my family stress. So if I grew up, we eat in the same household, we eat the same foods, we have the same emotional mix, and we've put so much focus on the physiology of the body. We forget about the fact that emotions affect us greatly too. And so I believe that you're right. Through the logical scientific ways to say it's epigenetics, the expression of a gene, but the expression of a gene is affected by our surroundings. And our environment, yeah. And our environment, if it's stressful, we get stressful genes.
Absolutely. So there's we see in BrainMechanics two pathways really. There's cortisol levels, which is related to stress, the hormone, right? And that modulates a whole bunch of different, epigenetically your code, and then the gut biome as well. Right? Those are kind of the two kind of big levers as far as, and so one of the areas that we're looking at, we're BrainMechanics, and we really, the brain, we don't consider just this brain, we see there's multiple brains. We see the body as a distributed processing system, and so you would have parts of your physiology would be controlled by this brain, but then you also have the gut, which some folks consider the second brain, right? And then your heart. And now I'm honored to be talking to you because you guys are in the forefront of a fascia, right? Yeah. And each of these things have different responsibilities. So the idea of like just your brain being this control, the main driver is in charge. That's just an old way of
old paradigm. Yeah. I mean, all of our education in medicine and sports and science typically is brain dominant. And but as we came from the body side, and now there's scientific evidence. So you can Google the brain interstitium of the fascia. So the fascia has 1,000 times more nerve endings than the brain. So we recognize that there's computing centers. There's emotional, the heart. There's the logical, the brain. But then there's the fascia, which is our connection to the rest of the world. We feel through fascia. And so one of the ways that we like to say it is this is our bodies are irrespective of what we believe in science, what we believe in spirituality. The body is a fluid, adaptive, biological computing system. And as any computing system, it has different areas of logic and processing. And the brain, and we have definitely mastered the act of programming the body. And somebody asked me the other day. He was taking a real famous fascia course out there, and he asked me on a private call if I thought I understood fascia, and it's like the humbling experience is no. I think that anybody who pretends to understand fascia is completely delusional, because I know how to work with it, and I know how to program it, but every single day, I'm learning something new about fascia, and the more I learn, the more I understand that I didn't know anything at all. I started off with fascia being a coating around muscles, or like a tendon that was intelligent.
Myofascia release and all this.
Right. Yes. But the fact is that the way I explain to people is that we live in fascia is more like a liquid gel that has pressure tubes that pressurize. And it responds and is constantly adapting to the environment. It's covered in biological skin. Our bones, our muscles, our organs, our tissues, and our brain all float in the fascia, which you're starting to experience.
Yeah, it was quite an experience.
It really is.
So Gary yesterday, we did some practice with my wife Liliana here at the resort, and we were doing this practice and these movements, and you know, I'd seen Liliana do yoga and things like that in the basement, and I've done some yoga, Kundalini and others, but I've never experienced anything like this. In fact, so we did these movements and stretching, and I'm probably the least flexible guy in the world, but I was doing the stretches, and I really felt like we would do this stretches, and then we would after the stretches we would walk, and it literally felt like something was shifting on myself, and I felt like I don't know. The only way I could describe it is I got this maple syrup or honey thing, and you know how you have air, and then you flip it around, you see the little bubble. I felt like I was navigating through time and space on this little bubble, just slowly, ever gradually, slowly, and everything became slow. Everything kind of slowed down. I don't know, the other analogy I could allude it to is during COVID time, my kids and my wife and I would fill up a balloon, and we would do this, you know, my oldest son is into freestyle soccer. He likes to watch freestyle soccer, and they do all this juggling. And we said, you know what, let's inflate this balloon, and let's do juggling on the balloon. So we're doing all these complex moves juggling, but in reality, the balloon is moving so slow. And you would just make this movement and go through all the motions. And it just felt like that. It felt like I was actually, everything became lit up. Like I was an 8K television, and the sounds, the smell, everything, it's just at another level. The only time that I've actually experienced something similar to this is, you know, when I take a Vipassana course, a 10-day course, on day 8 or 9, you know, I'm so aware of the moment, and I can feel every fiber, every movement, every sensation. It's like my sensation levels on the body and everything is really magnified. So that's how it felt like. But you're able to induce that, or show me how to induce that change.
By yourself?
By myself.
In minutes.
You know, in minutes.
So, but you actually, you are the king of wearable brain analysis, right? Body analysis. So what happened last night? I mean, you went to sleep, you track your sleep. You sleep with an EEG.
Yeah, like that's how I roll.
Okay. I found somebody as crazy as me. This dude sleeps with an EEG on his head. So anyways, yeah, what happened?
Yeah, so last night I've been tracking a little bit of the trends. So last night what happened was I had literally like 40% of my sleep was REM, rapid eye movement, and rapid eye movement. From our experience dealing with reprogramming at the emotional level and psychophysiological level, really at this point, is that when you actually have any of these therapies, when you sleep, rapid eye movement is a part where you're actually integrating emotions as well as like integrating what you learn into, you know, some obscure like Google search, like, you know, how does this experience combine with everything that I've known in my life, right? And so we measured REM, you know, extensively on this, and we see it. And I have not seen, besides the Vipassana course that I took, so I was probably I shouldn't say this out loud, because I wasn't technically allowed to bring my EEG headset to sleep with it, or track my, you know, wear a headset when I'm meditating to quantify the meditation.
Okay, I do the same thing. I like whatever I'm on that journey. I'm gonna go full time into that journey all the way.
So last night, what I gathered, the way when I slept, it was like actually the same experiences of when I went on a Vipassana course, where I was just integrating all these things, and I felt like a completely new person this morning.
But the cool part is you did it yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
This is my journey. My journey was I was going back to practitioners of all different disciplines to try and help myself get better, feel better. And until now, we've had very little evidence that this actually affects things like sleep, other than anecdotal, right? But now in partnership with you, we're going to have actual evidence, because to increase your REM sleep into 40% of your entire sleep, that changes the recovery, changes sports, performance, everything. And all we did was, the first 3 movers was a pallet swipe, totally twisted, left and right, and anti-gravity.
I'm probably the least, like my wife will tell you, I'm probably the least yoga guy. Like I've done a little Kundalini yoga, and I could actually do these moves myself. So if I can do it, I think anyone can do it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the quantification side, because I do believe that the innovative therapy or practice, I guess you're showing people how to do, it really does tie into stress as well. Because what I hypothesize from understanding what I actually have experienced is that this technique is so powerful that it can actually help add vagal nerve tone. The vagal nerve is like this nerve that we have that really can measure through heart rate variability, so we've got a direct KPI for that. And I do believe that it's going to increase the vagal tone, and the vagal nerve is the muscle, not muscle, but I guess if you use the analogy of a muscle, that's able to order kind of the brakes to the car, right? Where you're going super stressed and all of a sudden you hit the brakes, the vagal nerve is able to stop that cold distress. And I literally felt that, but I felt it yesterday at such a profound level that I think that you're going to have just amazing numbers on the heart rate variability.
Well, you had, in your situation particularly, you had, because a lot of people have one shoulder elevated, usually left trap, you had, that causes a lot of constriction in the fascia where the vagal nerve goes in through here. And so the move that we do actually releases the vagal nerve, and if it doesn't release in totally twisted, then it's just a simple push, and after we do the maneuver, and the vagal nerve pathway, because the nerve itself, it's like any other nerve. If you compress a nerve in your spine, you're gonna have diminished function. And so the vagal nerve is traveling through fascia, and this right here is also a small intestine area. So if we're having bad digestion, eating bad food, it's affecting the vagal nerve, and consequently the vagal nerve affects the digestion immediately, because if we're in stress, we can't digest properly. Because in stress, the blood leaves the core of the body, goes to the limbs for fight or flight. And we don't think about this because most people are in stress. In my experience, anyways, I've done about 15,000 subclinical lab tests on 50,000 people with about between 40 and 50,000 peripheral tests, like food sensitivities, stress, hair index, heavy metals, all the different ones you can possibly imagine that we've done over the last decade. And it keeps coming back with a very, very consistent thing is that basically people, just general statement, people are in stress. And when we're in stress, we don't rest and process properly.
Oh, I really believe if you're not, so there's a bit of science. Heart Math Institute's done some quantification on what's called Psychophysiological Coherence, which is 0.1 hertz. If you look at, there's a bit of a spike there, and that spike puts you in a state of what's called psychophysiological coherence, where your heart is broadcasting to the rest of the organs saying, hey, it's all good, we should be healing, everything's good. And when you're able to elicit that, you're able to then put yourself in a healing state, right? And I believe that what I experienced yesterday, and I can't really describe it yet because I've been trained on heart math and I'm a heart math certified clinician, all that stuff, but what I experienced yesterday was much more profound than that. It was almost like it was able to put myself in a psychophysiological coherence state, but then I'm also in a flow state where everything slows down, like my awareness and consciousness was a bit more awake. It was just magical. Like I can't really, still trying to put words to words yet, but
that's the way it was for me. And the idea is that in the first it takes 10 to 13 minutes to do those first 3 maneuvers, and that means that if I can reduce the stress and bring brain heart coherence in that period of time, that means I'm in control of my health. Because what causes us to be sick is stress. Actually, that should lead to our next topic, because we talk a lot about that. It's how stress affects things like emotions. I mean, one of the things we were talking about earlier, if you want to talk about it, was anger. You had a personal journey with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so my journey into meditation and self-improvement was that I'm from Puerto Rico, a little island, right? We're hot-blooded people, Latino, right? I come from a family of 7, so if you didn't speak up, you weren't heard, right? So you have to kind of flare up your elbows and kind of mark your territory kind of thing. So I grew up in that environment, and I realized that I had like a very short fuse. Like my reactions are just disproportionate. And before it was okay, not I guess I was able to live with it. But then after I got married with Liliana, she's such a kind and noble soul. And when I realized that I have these outbursts that were hurting her, I just felt ashamed. I'm going, you know what? And I had tried on my journey. I had tried pranayamas. Like I looked at Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy. I did counting to 10, counting to 40, stand up on 1 foot, hop around, like everything that I could actually do, and so really let breath work and things like that really led to the point where I realized that none of these things were actually helping me change as a person. On the superficial level it did to a certain degree, but I started to realize that it was deeper than this. And just started the process of exploration, and I met a gentleman, very kind, noble person, and I said, "You're so at peace, like what are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I just practice Vipassana." I was like, "Okay." So finally was able to sign up for a course, and I was actually an entrepreneur as well, and had a venture that didn't go as well as planned. So I was putting about 80 hours a week to try and pay investors back. And as I was going through that, I started developing a stomach ulcer. So, so my dad being a gastroenterologist is like, yeah, you gotta get that checked out, And I had seen my dad treat people with ulcers and things like that in a very mechanical way. So I went into the meditation course, and literally, the truth that happened there is that I discovered psychosomatic phenomena where you could say that I had an ulcer and it was a physical thing, but the stress is actually, I was bottling up my stress in my stomach, and that was causing that bioenergetic, through the fascia, the storage there, was causing my biology to actually start plunking down.
That's the way we see it.
Yeah. So I, after experiencing Vipassana and going through learning how to actually get to the subconscious level of the mind and dealing with these sensations as they're there, I was able to liberate myself from this condition of a physical condition. And I said, wow, if a person can go in and actually using their own mind through a technique, go in and actually get to that level, there's so many other conditions potentially that are caused by that.
We've seen it, and it's always on the peripheral of medicine and science. But in other places like in China, there's videos. I remember a Great Braden video, and there's one where they have the 3 practitioners, and it's 3, and that's why we always have 3. There's Jason, who's behind the camera, and there's Cynthia over there, who's got on the camera, and the 3 of us. It's important to have the 3 because that's how we feel that the body works. But they show online. They have a tumor, and they are chanting or talking to the tumor, and the tumor reduces. And a lot of times in science and medicine, they go, that's all bullshit. Well, it's like what we do is scoliosis goes away in 3 hours. It's not bullshit. It happens. Like the problem that I saw is that science has picked this this avenue of longevity or lineage of people who support it, like peer-reviewed papers. And for all you scientists out there, I'm not trashing science. I'm trashing the application. I'm trashing the application of it, because what happens is we can have 1,000 people that say one thing's one way, but we have something that conclusively proves it's different, but nobody really wants to look at it until those 1,000 people kind of shift their point. And so that's more like a popularity contest. It's more like I got reviews are like likes. I mean, in a weird way, and I don't mean to diminish it to that point. And I certainly, for those of you who are my friends who are scientists and doctors, please, I'm really not diminishing it. What I'm saying is that something needs to change, because when there's a clear evidence that there is a change, there often is a predisposition not to listen to it until such time that there's more people that listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you know it. So my whole part is that the human garage over the last 8 years, and my 10 and a half years in the field of medicine and health, it's been predicated by one simple thing. If it works, we do it. And
well, that is evidence-based.
That
is evidence-based at the bi-individual level.
Right, and so and
that is science.
But that's what I want. I wanted science to affect the bio-individual. I don't like. It doesn't have to affect everybody, and it doesn't have to be true for everybody. And one of the questions that I had from somebody is like, I had a really, really tough discussion I was having with them. And they're asking, well, but what's the science behind it? How does it work? And I'm like, you know what? I mean, I give you my belief, but I don't know that that's true, because my belief has been modifying. And for those of you guys who have been online listening to our podcast of Human Garage, I mean, you've heard the story. If you listen to them in sequence, you'll hear the whole story of Human Garage. It's our beliefs about what happened over time, because each thing informed the next belief, and I'm okay to be modified. I don't care if I'm wrong. I only care if you get the result. And so that's has been, and I know you're the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
I know this is where you differ, because you gotta have a little friction in your. You got scientists and doctors. And
Yeah, well, I'm not offended by the research side. So I'm a meta research. I do research. So I don't necessarily need to have the facilities and all that stuff. But I'm a fangirl that I follow researcher guys, and that way. So I never realized that until now. That maybe I'm like
there is. I mean, you want to support somebody who has a belief that's good. But if there's something else that is better, and this is part of it, is because saying something else is more true, in the way we say it, the way I found it coming in science, because I'm from technology. I'm from the technology space, and in the medicine space. You're more in the technology space, moving into. I've been in the medicine space for a long time, and healthcare, and by saying something's different, there's an impression that the person who had the other view is wrong.
Well, think about it this way. This is what I'm understanding here. It's like we go to a restaurant, and we're all going to be partaking on food at some point because we're all going to something to eat. So we sit at the table, and we're looking around, and we see like other people enjoying a dish there. I'm like, wow, that food that they make here looks pretty good. That person's eating that food, right? So there's a little bit of an understanding of like, you see that, you believe that the food is good because you're seeing it that it's good, right?
Yeah.
It's an observation. And then you're reading the menu and you're like, oh wow, this is really good, right? So you're getting some knowledge about this, right? But until you actually go sit down and start enjoying your meal and experience it, that's when you get into it, right? So yes. Belief could be, there's a belief, like I believe in this book and that book, blindly, but there's knowledge, there's belief, there's knowledge, and there's wisdom from experience. And what we're doing, and what I believe you're doing, is you're showing people how actually have that experience, that wisdom from the movement, from the lessons learned from that, and then what they learn from that becomes evidence on their journey. So you're almost like helping them navigate through like a GPS system of like a self-directed GPS, which is really like teaching people how to be biohackers. If you want to be like, bro talk about it, right?
We are. I mean, yeah, bro talk. But I mean, when I started off biohacking, we were talking about the bodybuilding stories. When I started off biohacking, it was like we didn't have resources or knowledge. There was no internet. It was crazy. We didn't have the tools. I mean, today we got science and research and the internet. On a click of a button, I can ask Google and I can find out something that in 2 seconds that used to take me 2 years to figure out.
Flex magazines, probably.
Yeah, we were talking about that because you grew up on bodybuilding magazines.
Yeah. My dad was he was a recreational bodybuilder, so I grew up reading American Journal of Medicine and then comic books and bodybuilding magazines. So that was kind of geeking out all the time about this kind of stuff.
So to drive this a little bit deeper, we want to talk about 3 specific conditions. Let's talk about tinnitus, and I'll give you my view of tinnitus. I've had roughly about 2,500 people over the last 7 years that primary complaint was tinnitus. But tinnitus is never the only complaint. So what we found that tinnitus is stimulated by nervous system being overloaded. It's one of the primary drivers. And there's multiple reasons, and the problem is that we say tinnitus, and we assume that tinnitus is like ringing in the ear, so it's all the same. But it can come from different reasons. Like for example, somebody who has really active Epstein-Barr or Bartonella, they're going to have tinnitus. They're going to have a ring in the ear. It's very common. And there's reasons for that. I don't want to go into all that. The next one is somebody who has a chronically tight jaw, which means that their fascia is tight, because the jaw is tight because the fascia is tight. They'll also have tinnitus.
TMJ is called TMJ.
Yeah, TMJ. I love that topic. Maybe I'll leave it off. But temporal mandibular disorder happens in the temporal mandibular joint.
There you go.
Yes, but they always call it TMJ, and I'm like, thank God.
I don't have to
my dentist goes to me, you got TMJ, and I'm like, oh my God. Thank you for telling me, because if I didn't have TMJ, how could I eat or talk? I know, it's just funny how we shorten things up, but.
That's compared to PBJ, right?
PBJ, yeah, which we have. So then we found another one is there's lots of gastrointestinal stress, pressure in the ileocecal valve, and backing up into small intestine, which seems to cause a lot of autoimmune conditions. that again causes brain fog and then ringing. And so what we would do is we would clear all those things out first, and then if the ringing's still there, then it's over to you.
Interesting.
So what do you say?
So I think so to add to what you were saying there, I think another cost would be like having some kind of damage to the ear, whether it's like using,
Yes.
you know, like you're, you know, in the 80s you grew up and you're listening to rock music or headphones or whatever, right? Or it could
Shooting
be,
guns.
Yeah, shooting guns.
We got a lot of military.
Oh, military. Yeah, absolutely, right. Just like that's related to TBI as well, with, you know, the, soldiers and things like this, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's an area, and then also mitochondrial dysfunction. So if your mitochondria in your ear cranks out, then your ear's not functioning well. What we've observed with tinnitus is that once that root cause has happened, the brain tries to overcompensate or compensate for that loss of hearing, and what it does is it rewires itself, and parts of the brain, and I won't get into crazy science, but parts of the brain, the neurons become hyperactive, right? So now the hyperactivity, excitement, starts creating, you know, there's something called signal-to-noise ratio, which I think also Fascia actually.
Yeah, we recognize that in
Yeah, so
signal-to-noise.
signal-to-noise ratio. So now you're generating this feedback loop, and this feedback loop is now triggering parts of, this is your brain. Now you're talking about the autonomic nervous system, right? And when this triggers, this noise happens, part of your brain and the autonomic nervous system communicate and said, oh, you're in danger.
Mhm.
So now there's this feedback loop that your brain got reshuffled, rewired, and now the ringing happens, and now it's triggering this danger response. And people who have tinnitus are going through so much suffering because they're now chronically stressed because they're constantly going on feeling
You know,
like they're.
I literally just understood something. Because we've been tracking signal-to-noise ratio. So when we did the movements, it feels like the room got quiet.
That's right.
That's signal-to-noise ratio.
Absolutely.
So we dropped the internal signal-to-noise ratio in the first 3 movements.
Absolutely.
And that's why if it goes, so what happens? So now, you know, this is on the fly. Okay, this is just us.
And we're going to quantify all this later with like EEGs and stuff.
Yeah, but I would assume then, so if I had a signal-to-noise ratio which is high, so like if my nervous system's charged and I'm stressed out because of malfunctioning organs, because of too tight fascia moving, not breathing right over time, it starts off as stress, and then anxiousness, and then tinnitus usually. But it can still be tinnitus without those things. But if we were to drop the signal-to-noise ratio, what's happening is that becomes a pattern in a neural pathway in the brain.
Absolutely.
And so.
And autonomic nervous system too.
Yeah, so for me, I had tinnitus, and it took me like maybe 8 months being in a calmer space, and it went away. And I believe that you give the body time, it'll feel anything. I mean, if we can replace half a liver, if the body can regrow half a liver in 6 months, it can do anything. So the idea is that the signal, the part about tinnitus is that it's the constant ringing in the ear. It's almost like water torture. You know, the old Chinese water torture where they drop the water drop because it's constant in the ear. So the fact I have tinnitus and it's ringing in my ear is worse than the ringing in my ear. So if we were dropping the signal-to-noise ratio with our maneuvers, but there's still a tinnitus thing, then they could come to you to reprogram the pathway, because that's what you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few things there just I'm thinking about. So I think we should be able to correlate what do you call the protocols or the movements or the collection of the movement? I don't even know.
Well, we just call them fascial maneuvers. I mean, listen, like our marketing department wanted us to own them.
Yeah.
Initially, like we got to name them and trademark it. And I'm like, no, these help human beings.
Yeah.
You experience it.
Oh, yeah.
These 10 movements are what removed the majority of pain and stress and my need to go to somebody else to feel good in my body. I believe that those are free. So we put them onto the one for free.
Open source.
And all the open source. And people are learning. Yeah, absolutely. I'm back in the computing world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that healthcare was not open source.
We're doing open source health, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the people, by the people. Shh. They're people too.
We're the Linux.
Everybody's people.
We're the Linux of healthcare.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So I think we could quantify, so signal to noise ratio, I'd like to be really interested to do a before and after of the movements on brain functions and frequencies of the brain.
Well, we're doing that today.
Yeah, and then autonomic nervous system. But I feel that what we would expect would be that this would be a across the board frequency. It'll drop your brain frequency so they're not as active.
So that's the point, because stress elevates, takes in the different states of brain awareness, like theta, gamma, theta. So the stress elevates you out of your realization state. And I always say to people, the single outcome of stress, the more stress you get, stress has one outcome, one solution or death. That's the final one. My brother who was a big fundamental part of me creating the Human Garage and the drive for me to do this insanely, working 80 hours a week for almost a decade. He committed suicide over body pain and stress. And so, and he didn't see the logical outcome, because he said, I can't work anymore because of my back. But he had millions of dollars. I mean, we got millions of dollars when all the assets were sold. But, in his mind, he only saw the fact he couldn't work, single outcome isn't going to die. And so that's part of it, right?
That's your heart's driving you. This mission is your purpose in life, right? You want to eradicate the suffering from people, right?
Yeah, that was what I thought I wanted to do, and then I realized that as I was eradicating suffering, I was causing another problem, which is dependency. So that's why the maneuvers exist, is that no dependency, and then if there's still something we need to do, we'll help them. But if somebody's not willing to help themselves, right off the bat, it's not going to work. So the biggest problem in healthcare is compliance. People just doing 10 minutes a day. Oh yeah, I'll get to it. Oh, I've been so busy. It's like, after 10 years of hearing that hundreds of thousands of times, I'm like, really? So our first thing is we no longer do external treatment. At all. We stopped our last treatment was a week ago, 10 days ago, something like that. 10 days ago. No more external treatment ever again for the rest of my life, and I promise that. So as my witness, we will not. We are now only doing treatment on to help people pass and educate people who are helping people. So if they're not helping yourself, you don't even get into our world. And then once you're helping yourself and you're helping other people, then we're going to do it. Because if I help somebody who helps 1,000 people, I've helped 1,000 people. Now if I help 1,000 people myself, that means I'm gonna just drive myself back into the grave I came out of.
Well, you're really looking at, I see you as a social entrepreneur. You're really looking at taking on the social problems at scale, and you really need to build the systems to really tackle the problem.
That's the kettle calling the pot black. Yeah, you are too.
I know. I'm a revolutionary at heart. But so going back to your question here, so if somebody has tinnitus,
yes.
What we do is we figured out a way to help with help the brain rewire itself so that we can through neurofeedback and biofeedback. So neurofeedback being the application of brain-computer interfaces.
But you're not just doing the same thing that I know EMDR, neurofeedback, all that stuff.
Yes.
But I find traditionally that they don't work very well. Sometimes they do. But I know that you have success rates because you also have measurement.
Absolutely. Everything we're doing is quantifiable.
So a sleep study is about $1,500 a night, right? No, a sleep study is $500 to $1,000 per sleep night. Per sleep night. And how much can you do a sleep study for?
Oh, we could do sleep studies for $1,500, $2,000, but we do 30 days.
30 days. So, study of a night isn't going to tell you anything. I have good nights and bad nights. So the idea is that you've got 1/30 at the cost to show. So it's not about providing the therapy, especially in brain training, in brain education, and brain work. You have to look at the average. You can't just look at the spike. So a one study, and that's the problem with what I found in medicine, is that all of our tests are moments in time. And very few of them. Now, if you string a whole bunch of tests together, then you start to build a relationship. Trends. But in healthcare, let's do 10 tests. Okay. By the way, these 10 tests are going to cost you. They're $1,500 a piece, so it's $15,000. We haven't even touched you yet. So this is what I like about what you guys are doing, because you're developing wearables that people, and you're taking current wearables and you're integrating it in with dashboards and logic that
That's
allows people to start even analyzing themselves.
That's right. Like we're really building out that experimental framework that people can, that we teach people. So like yourself, we don't believe in giving people a fish. We believe in BrainMechanics. When we work with a client, we're gonna say, hey, here's a lure, here's a fishing rod, let's go fishing.
Yeah.
And we're going to show people how to actually, first we give them like a blueprint of their biology, so since, big into systems biology, so proteomics, metabolomics, genomics, microbiomics, all these omics, right?
And how do you do that?
We do a lot of, we do
Chemical testing or
yeah, so it's a combination of biometrics and biomarkers, right?
Oh, okay.
So right now biomarkers are actually being democratized, so I don't necessarily need a doctor to
Yeah, for sure. You can order a lot of tests yourself. Yeah. And thank God you can do that. But the good thing is you can do that. The bad thing is people without the experience or the knowledge start trying to analyze their own.
That's right. So the other part, what we do is we then help people, we empower them with the tools and the skill sets they need. We call it like a GPS of your wellness, where through your own experiential wisdom, I'm an Agile fanatic. I don't know if you guys know Scrum and Agile, but I'm a Scrum Master by trade as well. And what we do is we go on 2-week sprints. So wellness healing sprints. And we do 1 or 2 interventions, and we capture data before, during, and after.
I did a lot of drugs in my life. Interventions has it as a trigger word for me. Yeah, so you can go ahead. Sorry.
So we'll do a stimulation. We do a form of stimulation, right? We do a variable. We change a variable, and 1 or 2 usually, and we track it through, and we say, let's see how that. We're researchers, we're evidence-based, and by evidence I mean that I literally have an AI tool that I look at all the biomedical, everybody in our team does, and start looking at the pieces Lego pieces that we get put together. That's called meta-research, and then that's evidence, right? And then, which is like what you're talking about, the big popularity contest of grants and all this stuff, right? And then the other part is bio-individualized evidence, right? So we got to uncover what works for that person. So in BrainMechanics, what we do is we're collecting all these multimodal protocols and things like solutions that we could put in together, and we'll try 1 or 2 things with a person, do that sprint, and then the things that actually work for them, you integrate them as a behavioral pattern or whatever else that works for you. If it doesn't, then we continue to go to the list and say, okay, let's try 2 or 3 things next.
This is what I like about what you're doing, because I have like 10,000 active clients, and these are clients that usually, for the most part, 2/3 were gone everywhere else and nothing else worked, and that's why they came to us. So we're evaluating the end result of a lot of these things, and I find that your approach is just on the onset is much more has higher efficacy. It's more ethical too, because giving people snapshots and having them it's hard enough for a practitioner who does this all day to look at a picture and then make a guess. I mean,
that's the thing. So first of all, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on the internet, right? But you know what I'm saying. But we have, in order to know what works for that person, we have to capture the evidence, right? So we built this platform that allows us to do that, and we built a methodology to do that. And we do that for tinnitus people. We do that for Alzheimer's. We do it for traumatic brain injury. Alzheimer's.
Yes. Forget about it.
I know we're gonna be collaborating on Alzheimer's, but I do have so Alzheimer's is different root causes of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we've linked it to chemicals. Like for example, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's definitely linked to aluminum.
Yeah.
I mean, we got aluminum in our deodorants, aluminum in our food, but now we've noticed over the last 10 years, because we've done thousands of hair follicle tests, is that people have aluminum, barium, and strontium in North America at elevated levels. Barium depletes our silica, and we talked about that last time. It's like no silica, it doesn't matter. You can take all the minerals, you can take all the minerals, all the vitamins you want, and it's all going out if you don't have silica.
But couple that with our nutritional system, the food supply is depleting the nutrients, right? And the gut bacteria is being killed, because it's not taking in the bacteria that it needs in nature, because we're using chemicals to actually fertilize. So then all these things kind of couple. Not only can we not digest it because we don't have selenium, but even the nutrition that we take from fruits and vegetables that my grandfather or your grandfather
Yeah.
ate, the
They're
nutrition's not there anymore.
yeah,
The
the soil,
magnesium
the soil,
deficiencies, the
the soil.
minerals. And minerals are really important. I suspect not only, well, for brain function, neurological function, they're primordial, like baseline, foundational, but I suspect they also have a connection with your fascia.
Yeah, so the mineralization, minerals seem to mostly seed in the musculoskeletal hormonal glandular system, and then the organ and the fascial systems tend to be more water dominant.
Water.
That's why it's inflammation, because we're 70% water. And now the latest research is saying that bones are even made of fascia, and yes, they are, because they all grow inside. We forget that we're in a sac of fascia, and the musculoskeletal body grows in that. Like we grow in plasma, and that plasma is fascia. And we the point that we want people to realize, the reason why you felt the way you did is because
I was just thinking that.
yeah.
I was just thinking that. It literally felt like, I was just thinking, what I experienced yesterday was actually floating through my fascia.
Floating through, yeah.
Like, it felt like a maple syrup bubble just flowing through, like this.
So think about this. You take a quad muscle, right? And what we know about the body, fascia specifically, we get off of a dead cadaver. But fascia interacts differently when it's dead than it does when it's alive. So we see lines called fascial lines. But the way I can explain that is like when a river is big flowing goes and it dries up, there's a little bed at the end of it, which is a riverbed. But you'll see the river will like cut through a mountain, like in through a valley.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of it, you only see a little riverbed, which is what I call a fascia line.
Oh, fascia.
And because when the fascia's alive, when the body's alive, the fascia is constantly, and we discuss this in Interact. We're going to have basic fascia and practitioner fascia, and then practitioner level, and then our own training programs. But you can see these examples because we've gone and used, there is no really good definition, so we had to create our own. We have our own working definition of fascia. If you're a practitioner or you just want to know, it's in our app, and you'll see it in different content. We're just getting the app's in beta, so we're just getting it populated right now. Like, for example, they're just getting onto the app, himself personally, but the company. And then we'll have more of these discussions where we can do that where they're not censored. I mean, even this, we said the big C word in here, so I'm sure that...
Did we use the C word?
Yeah, earlier, yeah.
Was it compassion or another one?
No, it's the CV word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that probably hit our metrics, but we'll see. So the idea is that, the thing that got me in fascia is that you got a muscle, you can cut it up, and fascia wraps the muscle. But then fascia is inside the muscle. But then they say fascia is an entire sheet. And then I say, this didn't make sense to me. And then it's like, if the muscles, think about it this way. Think you're in gelatin, and the fascia is like agar, which is a tough gelatin. You're covered by a biological like a balloon, because we have 2,000 pounds of pressure, 14.7 pounds per square inch. And so you've got pressure coming down and pressure going out. The only example is a balloon that I can give. And inside that balloon is gelatin, and that's fascia. But the plastic would be our skin. Now you took toothpicks, and then you took rubber bands, you stuck it up inside, and the balloon, and the big one down the center, that would be our bones and our muscles. And then you put berries inside of us, stuck it inside, and they're all floating. Because none of the bones in the body touch except for the rib cage in the ear. So they can't be structure, because if bones were structure, that's why somebody says, is that a structural scoliosis? No. There is no structure.
It's unstructured.
Yeah, and so if it's structured scoliosis, by default, it can't be. Structure is the beams of this wall here. You've got a beam, they're nailed down. But if our body, if you put this house in relation to our body, our roof would be floating. And so what we have a different belief of what bones are, and we train our practitioners this. Bones are reference points, and we have simple anecdotal science ways to explain it. Everything we do is like a fifth grader can understand. So these are the things that we're looking at, but it just didn't make sense to me the way that we discuss it. So when you felt that last night, this extreme example, you're super body aware, which most people aren't. But you felt exactly that. You felt like you're floating.
I felt like after your description, I think what I could describe it is like I'm a big Star Wars guy. So it's like
NASA.
Yeah, and NASA. So it's like the Force, right? it surrounds us, it binds us together.
Yeah.
Like, I felt literally like I was floating around. And I felt
Fascia
like
is the force.
It is like, well, if you think about it, but it's interesting because it's also like, my experience is actually something that's entropic. Like, it's not permanent, like it's constantly changing, it's dynamic.
Well,
right?
so that's the whole human experience is supposed to be dynamic. We want solids. We want to say this is our baseline, but the fact is that the body is meant to react, and the stimulus outside of us is constantly acting. So the body can never truly have a baseline.
Yeah.
We can take fragments that say this is generally what it looks like.
Yeah.
But to say this is the way a body is, it's crazy, because if we add a bunch of stressors like we do right now, COVID or something like that, if you look at a photo from 1800s or early 1900s, everybody stands up and they're like, and I used to think, why is that? And then I saw a video of Flatiron, New York, and it was a camera in 1914, and just had people walking by, and guess what? Everybody had perfect posture. And I'm like, oh, we just assumed that everybody had rolled over shoulders and hunchback because that's the way they are today. But over time, the stressors of life and chemicals and stuff like that have got us to go from a standing straight human being to rolled in shoulders, hunched over a little bit, neck forward, and this is what we're doing at the best. And then we stand up and we're forward and we're leaning forward. And then, but the reality is we're supposed to be like this. And so, just because the body is that way, it means that we've had stressors over many, many generations.
Build up, right?
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
you said genetics.
Yeah, genetics. And the thing about it is that the problem with this is that these things are not visible to us, and we create this mental psychophysiological crutches to overcome it, to accept that this high signal to noise ratio is our norm, and then what happens is
the brain's job is to make things normal.
yeah.
So if it's lots of stress, we just get used to it.
Yeah. So this is the new, so now it's like the new norm. It's
Oh boy, do we hear that?
But it's like the new norm, right? But we don't have to. What I felt yesterday was I felt like I was a reset button, where, and I'm a meditator. I've been doing this for 16 years, and I've taken I don't know how many Vipassana courses, and but what I experienced yesterday was literally like a reset button.
Yeah, we believe it is a reset button. So as that boils down to, let's talk about, one of your specialties is sleep. So why don't people sleep?
So I would say that we started with sleep because Alzheimer's patients, they don't get much good quality sleep. We were pretty obsessed about sleep. So we built a platform to quantify sleep. So
because you don't sleep, you don't repair it.
Well, yeah. So what happens is Alzheimer's patients can't generate delta waves. And delta waves are like a frequency that when you generate delta waves, a big wave, and when you generate delta waves, they just discovered like this 2 or 3 years ago. There's a lymphatic system actually. It's like a car wash of your brain, and you're just going through BrainMechanics, kind of car wash going through and getting this delta waves. And what happens is they don't have these, so they can't clear any of the toxics or things that are happening in the brain or amyloid plaque and all these other things, right? So we had to innovate in a way that we can actually help create the delta waves. And then with our wearables, we can then increase the frequency, so the frequency of the delta waves and the amplitude of the delta waves. So now you're kind of rinsing pretty good. So we did successfully that. But then we realized too that there's all these different, sleep is so complex. Literally a year and a half ago, we started as a non-for-profit. But this doctor's like, you guys actually have a platform where you can induce, modulate, and affect sleep hour by hour.
So you're using you're basically assisting sleep through modulation.
Yeah.
By giving the brain feedback at a specific time. But you're constantly measuring, and then when you get it, it's kind of like a pacemaker for sleep.
Yeah, precisely. The platform allows us to do that. Now the platform allows us to quantify that, and then control it. So there's temperature and other things. But then we started. The scientist guy was like, look, sleep is a huge problem. It's not just Alzheimer's. Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, we decided to start a social enterprise, a for-profit, BrainMechanics Corp. And so we're going on this wellness journey. And that as we go through that, we realize that sleep is very complex. It's multifactorial. So, you know, when you're looking at it, it's not just the sleep, but all the different actions and things that get to that sleep. So stress is a big one, right? And being able to process stress. So we help people with that. And then there's biological factors, you know, things
Yeah,
like,
well,
you
we
know,
get circadian rhythm. You know, like when somebody, like the most common time is I ask people, when do they get up? First of all, going to sleep or staying asleep, different problem. Different problem. Once they're in, they can produce all the melatonin and go to sleep, but then, boom, they're up at 3 a.m. Or they're in, that's liver, at the end of liver, or they're moving into lung. So if they have a functional issue with an organ or a meridian, then they'll get up during those times.
Yes.
And again, it's variable because sometimes I don't have a problem with my liver, but I go under a lot of stress, I get a vaccination or something like this, so it causes there's an external input that's different than my normal living life.
Your architecture changes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we, you know, the other part too is when we ask people, because quality of sleep is another one, like how do I feel?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So simple question is when you get up to go to the bathroom. And because it takes, as the brain has to be awake for 30 minutes for the kidneys to signal to drop the bladder. So that means if I get up and go to the bathroom, that means I was actually awake for 30 minutes before I...
absolutely.
So do that 3 times a night.
Yeah.
They go, no, I just get up and go to the bathroom, it's okay. It's like, no, how many times? 3 times? And I'm like, well, that's a minimum of 90 minutes, but most likely that's more like, it's more like 3 hours. So they're sleeping 8 hours, now it's only 5 at best. And then you're talking about REM, because if they're going into REM and then all of a sudden, boom, they get a microarousal in the brain.
Oh, absolutely.
Then they start dropping the fluid, then they get woken up out of REM, so REM is disrupted.
I mean, there's literally about 80 factors that we look at when we look somebody's sleep, and we use a lot of evidence, so we do, you know.
So you give them equipment to take home and they modulate when they go home?
Oh, absolutely. But it's not everybody needs a full-blown platform, right? So there's about 80 factors. So what we do is we do an initial consult, we then try to determine what areas this person's kind of manifesting, what hypothesis we could actually have for this individual. We start formulating them, and then we deploy them in 2 week sprints. So it could be as simple as, like, we are evidence-based, so we would prescribe some kind of wearable to track it, because it's not just like this whole fallacy of like 7 hours and 8 hours of sleep. That just it's very
the amount of hours is nothing.
So at least having a wearable to track it, because I don't want to speculate. Everybody's different. So when we do an intervention, we track it. We've already correlated.
That
for example,
intervention word again.
Oh, sorry, intervention. Oh, sorry. So so here's the thing, right? So I was told not to use hack. So what I am is a biohacker, right? You know, so I've been told to take it easy. So my next word was intervention, but what would be a good word?
Yeah, no, I'm really messing with you. It's just funny because every time I hear the word, I have so much addiction in my head.
You're waiting, you're walking through, there's 4 people, like, okay,
every time I see intervention, I think of walking into a room and everybody's sitting there waiting to talk to me, and I'm like, what did I do?
So maybe what is it that we use the term that we use? A condition, but a variable or a condition.
Well, see, since you actually erase root programming issues, you can get rid of my trigger of intervention. So instead of being triggered, you can actually retrain my brain.
Yeah.
And so when you say intervention, I don't see the picture of all my loved ones standing around.
Absolutely.
Saying you did something wrong.
Absolutely, because there's so that brings up a really good point, right?
Okay, for all you addicts out there who are recovering, who have been in AA for like 10 years plus, you're still living through the PTSD of the intervention. BrainMechanics will help you erase the event.
Well, here's the thing. This is really good. I think we need to take a deeper dive on this. So why are you addicted? For example, I could be addicted to alcohol because when I was growing up, I had a moment in my life where my dad said I wasn't good enough, you know, or I felt like I wasn't good enough, and that's a mental program of I'm not good enough, right? And then that mental program has a sensation. Or actually an emotion, like I feel angry when I relive that memory of my dad, and this didn't really happen. My dad worked. Actually, in fact, I had a different program. My mom said you can do anything you want in life, and I believe it. That's why.
Well, that's what my mom said too.
Really interesting.
Yeah, she even but we get the point. It's about programming. It's sedating the the way that I felt in the program. That's why we use substances anyways.
Yeah. So you have this program, I'm not good enough. You have this memory, and then this memory in this program has an emotion, anger, maybe resentment, right? And that emotion is tied to an organ or a physiological, like I feel my anger and my stress, anxiety in my stomach.
Well,
therefore I had an ulcer.
Because liver, right above stomach, liver is where anger.
Yeah.
That's Chinese medicine.
Yeah. So I felt it there, and I stored my anxiety there.
And liver is also right here. So you look at anger. You look at the facial. The body is just expressing the emotion. So just want to explain. Sorry.
So when we mentioned about reprogramming, so that sensation is tied to the physical organ, and that physical organ, you feel something, a sensation. It is a gross sensation. When I relive this memory, I feel a gross sensation. At the subconscious level, what happens is you don't want to feel this gross sensation, so then you react with aversion. I don't like it. That reaction creates a neurological pathway. When we talk about brain mechanics and reprogramming, we're helping people reprogram themselves at the subconscious level of the mind by going at that point and showing clients how to actually, when we do this, we call it Thrive Training, we literally show them how to actually use this tool as a word processor where they just go in and edit the programs. Yeah. And they're able to clear themselves from this past trauma. So now they're no longer drinking anymore, because they're able to go to that level and be able to process that properly. It's an obstruction of the flow if you're thinking about flow in the body.
So I have a current problem. It's 3 a.m. every morning. It's ice cream and cookies.
You got a little craving. It's not.
I'm only but it's funny because
I did see the cookies over there.
Yeah, you.
I don't know. Somebody at some point of the day he's gonna be.
Okay. So guys, let's break from just to finish off in the sleep. The idea is that there are solutions that supersede what's currently out there.
Oh, yeah.
What's out there is super expensive, not functional.
That's right.
You've made it functional.
That's right.
And so we're going to be collaborating with you on that. And one of the things is, first of all, is that if people are reducing stress, they're going to sleep better.
Absolutely.
I mean, you slept better last night.
I would say that not only reduces stress, but stress using the movements that you're teaching people. Yeah. It really it goes at a really deep level that could really help out with a lot of challenges that we have. Like brain mechanics, just so you know, we don't use the word depression, we don't use any of these things. We see the body I see it as a marvelous, like a Formula 1 race car driver, a race car. And it's this hardware, and just like every year, it doesn't matter where you are as far as a car, every year a Formula 1 race car, they go and optimize it, right? So every year they say, what can we learn from the race car this year and apply it next year? So is that continuously improvement, right? So
that's what we say too. I mean, it's irrespective of what we think about spirituality and all that.
Yeah.
It all lands in a fluid adaptive biological computer, which is the most sophisticated computer on the planet Earth.
Absolutely.
I tell people really quickly before we go into our next stage, which is we're going to do some work. We're going to be doing some movements, and then we're going to take some questions during our movements. So Jason's going to come back and feed a couple questions in. So if you have questions, put them up on the screen. And we'll start answering as many as we can right now in real time. And we'll take the other questions that you have, you put them in our app, and we'll set up a feed for you later today, and you'll be able to ask those questions in the app. So I have no idea.
Well, I'll carry on the thought for you here. So going back to sleep, so we can help folks identify the root cause of the problem of sleep. We've got a whole process to do that. Everybody's different on their issues, right? And we feel like we could totally help people with sleep, and we would do it an evidence-based approach to improving their sleep.
And now with what we're doing with the Fascial Maneuvers, and able to reduce the stress, and we believe it's actually reducing emotional and trauma. So just not just stress. Stress is like the final expression of trauma. And so we believe that it's cutting to the trauma. That's why you slept differently and better.
Yeah, I think I had some things I was processing that were elicited from the practice, and I was able to clear it, process it out, so that my brain, I can work better. It's like, you know, it was like literally like I had, like my brain was like a browser, and you have all these tabs open, or an Excel sheet where you have, you know, this macro that's running in the background, and when you kill that macro, your computer just runs better. So yesterday after this practice, I felt like, well, you know, like I no longer have this process that's taking up this bandwidth of like the CPU or the RAM, and I just went Control-Delete. And this morning I woke up and I felt like a new man. I felt like I literally killed all this you know, this processes, or not killed it, I think it's a bad word, but maybe
Yeah,
you know,
so we say that
Control-Delete.
all the malfunctions in the body, the way we describe it to people is every malfunction, every emotional trauma, everything that the body feels, the brain explains why we feel. So the body has feeling, the brain has sight, sound, touch, taste, hearing. So we say that if the body feels but the brain can't interpret or make logic of it, it opens a window like on a computer. And that window stays open until it's resolved. And then we open window after window after window after window. Well, you go fast forward and we're now 40 and we got like 600,000 windows open. And when you have too many windows open, you try to use your computer, the mouse goes across the screen and starts doing like this. And so that, I mean, literally that's what we say Parkinson's.
Parkinson's, yeah.
Yeah, so, but Parkinson's is an expression of the physical form, but Parkinson's is in the thought too. It's like people's thoughts shaking, people's, you know, experience shaking, their emotionals are shaking.
Oh, their attention's shaking, right?
Yeah,
I got
so
five things at the same time.
So Parkinson's, and this is why I don't like labels. It's like, yeah, the body's shaking. If we don't label it as Parkinson's, we say the body's shaking. Okay, is there other causes? You know, like, because you can have a chemical overload, body shaking. There's a lab that worked with in Chicago, and Jillian, if you're out there, you probably are. Her grandfather invented a test. It's called cryptopyrrhia, and it's a single test in autistic, Parkinson's, ADD, ADHD, extreme. If they test it in the urine, they give you a supplement, and it's gone the next day. And I'm like, whoa! And I've seen it work. You know, and it's there's more than one reason. So labeling it as Parkinson's stops me from looking. The body shaking, it could be different.
And even just this whole idea, there's a silver bullet for everything. That here's a pill for everything. That's just ludicrous, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the causes of things a lot of in life are multi-causal, and you really need multimodal solutions. And that's the thing. Like, it really takes an interdisciplinary approach to helping somebody, but it's got to be driven by what's going on. And my dad used to say, so he was a doctor, a gastroenterologist, and he used to say
I bet you he was a gas.
He was a gastroenterologist. Yeah.
I bet you he was a gas.
He was a gas.
So hard to digest his conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it got too far, it ended up being a bunch of shit.
Absolutely, it almost did, right? Like, it was all about shit for him, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he used to say that a patient's going to tell him what's wrong with him. And what's going on in medicine right now, and I don't blame him, like, you know, I've seen what's happening. You know, my dad experienced that, where medicine went from an art form to this, like, systems of billing and you know, multiple rooms and processing of people and all that stuff. And he refused to do that. He would meet the patient in the meeting room, in the waiting room, and would bring him in, talk to him. And he was a gastroenterologist. It's not the most pleasant experience to, you know, have some things shoved in different parts of your body, right? So he would have a conversation with him, and he used to say that patient's going to tell him what's wrong with you 5-10 minutes. They know their body better than anyone else.
Yeah,
We're not going to say what's wrong with them.
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
like I said, Human Garage, that's the first thing is our emotional mechanics would go meet people, talk to them about what we're going to do, why we're going to do it. Then we would do it, and then we tell them why we did it and what the result was. Because part of the whole experience is also them feel like it doesn't matter if they don't believe that something happened. Belief is, the placebo effect is so strong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so part of the whole, and people goes, well, but it's only a placebo effect. And I'm like, okay, so you weren't walking, now you are, do you care? I mean, it's weird how people rationalize.
Well,
so hey, let's do this. Okay, what we're gonna do for everybody, we're gonna do the fascial maneuvers. We're gonna do 1, 2, and 3. So that's pulse swipe, totally twisted, and anti-gravity. We're gonna do it in our chair. This is our introduction. We did this all online. And the reason why he's here is because we did a series of movements online and changed his life.
I was here 2 days after I had my experience.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, let's do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, for all of you sitting there, see, all the fascial maneuvers can be adapted. When we do them on, there's thousands of ways to do these 10 maneuvers, and there's only 10. So, so first of all, you're gonna check, get in a comfortable seated spot. And if you got questions, roll them up in the camera then, and we'll try to answer them. Again, we'll answer other ones we can't answer in the app. Check your left, go to your left between your finger and your thumb. And go to your right one. Your right one's probably a bit more meaty. Again, I'm going to lead you in a direction. If it's not true for you, that's okay. I'm just going to give you what most people say so that you have a reference point. If it's not it, and you have something completely different, feel free to share it with us in the app and share it. There is no rights or wrongs, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to cross our right leg over our left. And we're going to cross our right arm over. So right arm, right leg. Left arm over top. And then we're going to take and we're going to swipe our palette from our right side to our left side. All these instructions are in the app just in case you miss these, but we're going to do it here. So swipe 6 times. From the left top, right top molar to left arm. Okay, unwind for a second. And then once you unwind, you're probably going to feel like a little looser in your neck.
Yeah.
Mid-back, take a deep breath.
Oh yeah. Feel looser on my back.
Do you feel, do you notice the breath change?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. And a little hard to tell hips, but just roll around. Yeah. So, okay. Then go back here and test your right hand.
Right hand?
Yeah. It's loose. Is that loose?
It's a little looser, still kind of meaty.
Still kind of meaty?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get rid of the meat later. And any meat that we don't get rid of in the fascial maneuver, we're having steaks. We're having steaks.
You just said getting rid of the meat yesterday. I had flashbacks of tears of joy flowing through my head.
That poor cow. Okay, so right and right. Okay, left over. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn upper body. Fascia has to be slow, turning it to the right. Okay.
Like maple syrup.
And then turn your head to the left. Now I want you to pull in your glutes, pull in your belly button. So we'll call that the root lock. Sex organs. Push your tongue out the left side for 3 breaths. Now remove your tongue. Purse your lips like you're sucking through a straw. Suck in air as deep as you can and hold it. More. And exhale. Okay, if you can wind a bit more, you do. More. And exhale. What we're doing is we're pumping up the balloon of the body, so the chest cavity. So breathe in again. More, and exhale. Now 6 breaths through the nose and into the nose up the mouth. I'm normally doing this alone, so it feels really cool. Got a buddy, got a fascial buddy. Okay, whoa, wow, man, it feels, okay, so slowly turn your upper body to the left and turn your head to the right. It's always counter-rotated, tongue in the right cheek for 3 breaths. Okay, now breathing through a straw. More, and exhale. It's like pumping up a balloon. More, and exhale. Again. More, exhale. Okay, into the nose, now to the mouth. When you breathe into your nose, let it fall out of the mouth. If you blow it out hard, the fascia is sensitive to movement and vibration. So going, it actually...
You have to go at maple syrup speed.
Maple syrup speed, okay. Unwind. Okay, we'll do this all on chair. Aaron Matthias, if you're out there, I'll say it again. He's the inspiration for fascial maneuvers because he had a lot of torquing in his body. And he would do the maneuver standing up and he would like fall over. And so he's like, I'm going to try it sitting down. And I'm like, yeah, there's got to be a way sitting down. But, I mean, how do you feel?
I feel pretty good. It just...
A little high?
Yeah, I feel like like my brain, overall, my brain's chatter has gone down.
Yeah.
So it's a frequency modulator down, so I feel, and I feel just relaxed, I feel like an awareness.
So can you tell what state your brain's in? Like,
I think I'm feeling like, so I'm hypercoherent theta, but yeah, like I feel like I'm really on a theta state.
Holy crap! You said hypercoherent theta.
Yeah.
Man, I just know them as the states.
Yeah,
He's got versions. Okay, let's go.
Okay, we got a question.
Okay, question.
It says, how does sitting for extended periods of time influence the musculoskeletal system and the fascia? And is it in a positive or a negative way? And how should one counter these effects?
Okay, let's just say there's nothing positive or negative. There's just action and reaction. Okay, so if we sit for a while, the job of the body is to help us create an action. So when we sit, technically what happens is we have to extend the posterior chain because we're stretching it, and then shorten the anterior chain. That's why when we get up, we want to go like this. So, so when we sit too long, anything over 30 minutes, where actually the body is starting to adapt to sitting. And that's why when you sit, you're uncomfortable, and then you get more and more comfortable, and then uncomfortable again. So when you start to move to the uncomfortable part, and then all it is the body trying to adapt. Like if you do the same motion over and over and over again, eventually the fascia starts to tighten so that you don't have to use as much musculoskeletal energy to perform the action. So if you do the fascial maneuvers, you can sit all day long, do the 1, 2, and 3, and what I say is sitting never happened. So sitting is no longer the new smoking. Sitting is just the thing that we do. So let's move out of it. Let's go to number 2.
So hold on a second. Does that mean that we're doing smoke breaks when we actually do the facial?
We are.
Oh, okay. It's like a good smoke break.
Man, I'm smoking, aren't you? I like smoking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So legal. Supply.
Okay, now turn your upper body to the right, and turn your head to the left. Okay, hold on. Let's start again. I saw you go really fast. Okay, slow down. Go into neutral first. We have to go slow. Okay, put your left leg over again. So you have to turn slow because then the body feels threatened. So fascia is slow moving.
Well, first I'm hugging myself, so it feels good. You know what I'm saying when I'm doing this?
Okay, listen. That's a conversation we should have alone. That sounds a little weird. Okay. Okay, COVID hug. Okay.
All right.
Oh, we said it again. Shoot.
All right, here we go.
Okay, upper body turn to the right slowly. Head to the left. Okay, tongue and left cheek. I know, those from are good. I think somebody's going to go, yeah, still blowjob joke. Okay, okay, now, purse your lips, breathe in. More, and exhale. Again. More, and exhale. I heard somebody come in. More, and exhale. Now I want you to tighten up your root lock again, pull up your belly button, pull up your glutes, turn a bit more, and in through the nose, not through the mouth 6 times. And you're constantly winding the body, tightening, not over, just to the point you're at that point of tension where you're starting to engage the muscles to defend themselves, but not too far. Okay, 3 breaths. 4 breaths. 5 breaths. Oh, see that 5th one is you feel it loosen the hips, right? I'm back in Canada, I say hey now.
Hey.
Yeah, I got my Canadian accent back, all you Americans. Okay, turn your body slowly to the left. This one's going to be very, very restricted for most people. Lots of reasons for that. We'll share those in the app, but turn your head to the right. Put your tongue in your right cheek. 3 breaths. Now, breathing in, pursed lips like you're drawing for a straw. Tightening up your glutes, pulling your belly button. Again, and again, and exhale. All you people that say you can't do this because you work, more, exhale. Remember to let the breath out slow because the vibration, breathe in, exhale. Okay, into the nose, not to the mouth, and I'll remind. So as the vibration goes out of the lips, if it goes out too fast, if we blow air hard, fascia becomes sensitive and it feels like it's a threat, so it tightens up. the musculoskeletal system. So you let the air fall out. There's sometimes we have a hard breath and sometimes we have a soft. So breathe in and let it fall out of you. And if you let it fall out of you, you'll feel it in your hips, your legs, specifically more. If you blow it out, you'll feel tight in your legs. If you let it fall out, you'll feel calm. Okay, good. Now, we were talking about noise ratio.
Signal to noise.
Signal to noise ratio and how the brain works with that, and how fascia works with that. So, where are you at right now, signal to noise ratio? I mean, for those of you who are just jumping on, you have to go back because we got some cool ass science talking about the brain. We're doing one more. We'll do anything.
Oh, one more. All right.
Yeah, but how do you where's your signal to noise ratio now?
I think the noise is radically decreased.
Yeah.
So I'm much more aware. My perception and the signals of the perception that I receive is much higher.
So hypocoherent
Theta, yeah.
still?
I would say that, yeah. Like I would say, yeah. Like
Is hypercoherence coming down?
It has.
So your hypercoherence theta, because hypercoherence theta means we're acting with the world. So the layman, just maybe describe that in layman terms.
Yeah. So theta is like a frequency that usually when you're 1 year to 8 years old, it's a state of your brain that when you're there, it makes you believe things.
Yeah.
Like they're true. So Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, which I think they're still
Hold
true.
on a second, they are true.
No, they are true.
Yeah.
And my theta tells me they're true, so
Yeah.
I still believe.
If my theta says so. If theta says so, then it.
But my brain is hypercoherent. Coherence is the parts of your brain communicating to other parts of the brain.
Yeah. So like the logic center communicating with the reason center, also with the motion center, like the nucleus and the cerebellum.
That's right. So in my brain, at certain times, the theta becomes like very connected. The connections are instead of just like a line.
patterns?
Well, the connections are all over the place. It's different parts of your brain. So if you're looking at like an EEG and doing a QEEG, you would see like lines going through.
Yeah, but in QEG, wouldn't you see the lines crossing, right?
Then we see the lines crossing.
Yeah, so it's like X patterns, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I would
X
normally
patterns,
expect.
yeah, absolutely. So normally it would be like a pencil, but mine like Sharpies. It's just the way my brain is.
Right. So because when I see a QEG, I would see smaller lines. Then as the brain calms down, the brain goes blue, and then you see the lines starting to be thicker.
Thinner, thicker, yeah.
Thicker.
So mine are the activity on theta overall on all my brain are just much more chubby.
Okay, so hold on. So all you guys out there that have your QEG machines at home, this is what you do. This is the property, which is cool because he has wearables that tell us if we're in these states. Normally these wearables are just so expensive scientifically that the average person doesn't have access to it. But you're taking and you're democratizing the evaluation, the scientific evaluation of data.
Of their own data, the biology.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Ready?
All right.
Okay, so this one's anti-gravity. Okay, hands right like this.
Oh, this one,
Yeah, this one here. Oh, this one there. Okay, back behind the head. Now what you want to do is you want to pull the skin up, just like we do. And again, all of these are in the app. I just want to say that we're going to go through a little quick here for time, but by the 4th day and by next time, we're not going to tell you all the instructions. We're going to give you cueing. And the rest of them, if you want to learn, they're all in the app in detail, okay? So pulling the skin up, okay? Suck in your belly button, pull up your sex organs, and look to the ceiling as high as you can, and breathe in 3 times through your mouth. Again, and exhale. So you're still pulling upwards and forwards. Breathe in. Again. Exhale. I see a spider. Breathe in again. Exhale. Man, I see shit I didn't see before. Okay, in through the nose. 3 breaths. I think I've become giddy and hypercoherent.
You're getting high on your own supply, man.
Oh, That's what it is. Okay, I told you as a drug dealer it's a bad deal, but as a human drug dealer it's a good deal. Okay, chin to chest slowly, and it's like you're gonna pull a shirt over you. So you're stretching the skin forward. Oh man, that feels good. I haven't done this in a while. Okay, now we're gonna do is tighten up your root lock again, pull in your sex organs. Come on guys, it's like you're gonna pee. You've not, no idea, you haven't done it before. Okay, chin to chest, pulling in. Now breathe in 3 times through your mouth, just in and out. Okay, now, again, pulling in your root lock, again, reset, and through your nose. You'll notice air distributes higher above the diaphragm with the nose, below the diaphragm with the mouth. Okay, so we're going to turn up to the right like we're swimming. Turn your head all the way up to the right. Take a deep breath in through the mouth, and exhale down. Up to the left. Whoops, slow down. Up to the left, and exhale down. Now slowly go down. Bring your elbows together a little closer if you can. There, Karen. To the right, and we're going to do 2 more times. Exhale down. To the left. Exhale down. Constantly pulling that shirt or fascia off your back, over your head. Breathe in. Exhale down. Up to the left. Exhale down. I think I'm going to have PTSD from saying that. Okay, anyways, let's go all the way down. Bend your neck. You're right between your legs as far down as you can. We're going to go right and left again. So right and down. Left. You'll feel this in the sacrum and lower back. Right and down. Left and down. Wow, I feel actually my lumbar a lot. Do you feel that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like right in the lumbar of the tailbone.
Pretty deep stretch.
Okay, good. Come back to center. Go as far down as you can and tighten up your glutes and pull your belly button in. Breathe in really deep with your mouth. 3 times. Nose. Again, you'll feel the stretch in the upper body through the nose, above the diaphragm into the arms and the neck. Again, now we'll slowly come back up. Keep your head down. Pull your head down as you sit back up and look to the sky. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
How do you like my supply?
Yeah. This is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do this on my own now, huh?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I mean, how do you feel?
Oh, I feel great.
You look like you're high.
Yeah, can everybody tell, like, my body feels like it's changed? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like much more relaxed.
I feel like we're doing weed, sitting on the couch, like, dude, you're high.
Dude, that's the biggest bong hit I've ever seen.
Hey, hold on a second. Where do we park the car? Yeah, so move around, guys. Since we're not walking here, I encourage you to get up and walk around. But if you're not walking, move around. This is the kind of things you do at work. These are work aerobics. So fascial maneuvers at work. So people say, I don't have the time to do fascial maneuvers. I'm working all day. I'm like, 10 minutes, man. Come on. Take care of your own body.
And I think that the walking part of it is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you'd be super hyper aware of it. So where's your brain at right now? I mean, you're the brain guy.
I don't know. I don't think it's. I think it's right here.
Yeah, be present.
I am very present.
Yeah. So the difference is in hypocoherent theta is different than being present.
Yeah.
Yeah, because being present is actually not like as theta is the belief stage.
Yes.
But after belief, I find comes presence, and that's the flow.
Yes.
And I think this is why when you slept last night, this is why your Rem sleep went up to half your sleep.
Mm.
You know, instead of having 30, 40 minutes of REM sleep, you had how many hours of REM sleep?
I think it was like 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours of REM sleep.
Yeah, 4, I think.
4. Yeah, this is a dude. This is a guy. This is a dude who sleeps with
an EEG, a PSG.
PSG,
PSG,
which is basically it's an EEG that's kind of like modified.
Yeah.
So and so you know this stuff, and the single application of our fascial maneuvers took you from an average person doing. Well, what was your average? Because I mean, you've been training this for a long time. What was your average REM sleep before last night?
Usually about 2.5 hours. I'm more of a delta wave sleeper.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was about 2.5
I used to be
hours.
delta wave too. But yeah, that delta wave, that was like a long time ago. But you went from 2 to 2.5 hours to like 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So you're doubling your REM sleep. So REM sleep is where the brain and the body coalesce so that we can start the healing mechanism, because it's intercellular healing happens after 30 minutes of REM sleep. That's what I believe. There's a lot of science that points to that, but basically it's after that 30-minute mark things will start working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I feel good.
Feel good.
I like relaxed.
Okay, so we have a couple more talk grounded.
Yeah, very grounded.
Yeah, did you feel light?
I feel lighter.
I know, isn't that funny? People go, my legs feel so heavy, and I said, but do you feel light? I feel light, and it's like the weird.
Yeah, it's a bit of a duality there, right? Because is that what you're feeling, the pressure and then the absence of pressure?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's so if you think about the physics of the balloon that we talked about, internal and external pressure meeting, we have gravity and we have mobility. So those are internal pressure, external pressure on the balloon of the body, external pressure going out. Gravity, however it works, it pulls down, whatever your belief systems are. I got a marketing guy here, so I can't say it pulls to the right. But anyways, then we have forward mobility or motion. Even sitting up is forward mobility. So I believe that the physics of the body, the internal physics of the body is much different than we observe on the external physics. That's what you said last night, right?
It felt just like that.
Yeah, it felt like internal physics and external physics were now separated.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what we call being in a fascial flow.
Oh.
Yeah. So we have another topic we're going to talk about. So we've talked about tinnitus, we talked about sleep, and by the way, for those of you guys, if you've been getting up at 3 a.m. and having pain in your hands or your feet, especially right foot, and or your hands at 3 a.m. at night, between 3 and 5 over the last couple of weeks, I will write an article on the app and answer quickly, and I'll answer your specific questions. I believe that there's something happening right now, and just generally, because I've heard hundreds of people say the same thing. So I will answer it in my best way that I can and tell you what I'm doing to solve it, because it happened to me. I was in like level 9 pain at 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. in my hands, and I have to sit up, move around, and then boom, I go back to sleep. Or after 5 a.m., I just go back to sleep.
Oh, that happened to me last night too. I had something going on there. So.
Yeah. So I believe there's something going on. Yeah, we have a belief about it. I'll tell you what I'm doing to resolve it. Who knows why? Okay, so we're talking. Okay, we did a traumatic brain injury. Okay, so Tbi concussions. I had 8 diagnosed concussions in May 10th, 2010. I lost my ability to understand the complexity of using a keyboard to drive a computer screen.
Wow.
And being from the computer business, I rolled up in the ground. I knew what that meant. I knew, basically, I'm hooked. I knew that if that, at that time I didn't believe there was an answer. I knew my brain had degraded to the point through stress that I was no longer able to correlate my thought with a specific action to create a result. And it was the first time it happened, and I was shocked, and I rolled up in a ball and cried for 8 hours and just fell asleep. I woke up in the morning and I had a binary decision, stress. You know, that either this or die, and my thing was I solve this or I die. And if I didn't want to live like that, I was contemplating killing myself. And so that was the decision that led me to human garage. And so the traumatic brain injury, the way we see it, since we see the fascia and the gelatin, we know that if you get hit here, a concussion is going to go over here. So you have an external fascial contusion, which causes tightness, and then we have an internal fascial contusion on the inside of the skull, and that's affecting the blood flow and also the metabolic process of the brain. Because we have 9 cranial bones. They expand and they contract, and that's how the body brings blood in, and it controls all the metabolic functions. And if the bones can't expand and contract, then they don't. Like, we found that, for example, your frontal bone was stuck last night. Now, your face changed shape.
Absolutely. I mean, being a Delgado, I've got a Benjamin Franklin forehead, but it was really pushing the limits.
Yeah. So they changed that thing because what happened was, and we find so we find common causes is either a back concussion or frontal concussion causes the frontal bone to stick, and I'll tell you why that's important in our world. And then the other thing that happens is C-sections. So C-sections, which when the frontal bone's stuck, the frontal lobe of the brain doesn't get enough oxygen and it doesn't detoxify enough. And so,
functions.
well, yeah. So when we did that last night to you, that's the only modification that we did personally was to release that. Then you had a blood rush and a sense of calm in your brain, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's a manual intervention into a concussive force, which is causing a restriction of the body's ability to expand and contract. I mean, you can feel it if you put your hands in your head and squeeze really tight, and then sit up, and then breathe through your mouth. You'll feel your temples breathe in and out. You'll feel your temples pressing out. You feel that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's as we breathe, the balloon of the body is expanding and contracting. We just don't see it because it's micro contractions. But when that happens, if there's any contusions external, it causes the bones, the cranial bones, to have internal constriction, and then the blood doesn't go up there. Now again, not a doctor. This is engineering.
That's right.
Yeah, this is just internalized. I mean, you don't have to be a doctor to figure that out. You just have to be an engineer. Oh shit, I'm not an engineer. I'm a human engineer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or mechanic.
Mechanic, yeah. You know, it's funny because they call them brain mechanics, and we were like motion mechanics. So we're the mechanics of movement, and he's the mechanics of movement in the brain. So that's our version, and what we do is what I did for you last night. We have you have to refer people to our app. Jason's going to give me shit for saying the app too much, but in the app we have a non-surgical facelift. It makes your face look younger. They see all those posts that we do. But you actually have to refer how many people to do that?
25.
If you refer 25 people to the app, you get that whole non-surgical facelift. Do it yourself. And Dan Alyssa from Wild Branding recorded it. It's funnier than shit, actually. And that is what actually start the process of releasing the cranial bones so that you can have better movement. But we want you to help other people. So that's our price. Our price is it's free. All you have to do is tell other people about it. If you do that, you get our content for free. So, question.
We got a question. It says, can you speak on the different types of headaches? If you think there's different kinds of fascial influence underlying some of them, migraine headaches, tension headaches.
Okay. Yeah.
Cluster
okay, so
headaches,
I'll speak on that really quickly, and then we'll go to the headache. So, generalized, we say headache. That means ache in the head. Again, it's like tinnitus. We don't say why it happens because you could have ictal seizure cranial headaches, which is a neurological condition, but you can have a malfunctioning gallbladder, and that gives you a headache right here on the side, either side. You can have overactive liver, and it gives you a feeling of a headache right here. You could be having pesticides, and it feels like right back here, especially after coffee. Those are headaches.
You can live in Calgary. Every time the weather changes, you feel it. Yeah, migraine headache, right?
No, hold on. I grew up in Alberta. You could live in Alberta and you just have a headache for living in Alberta. But you save 9% on your tax.
But you don't get Chinooks in Edmonton, though, right?
Chinooks?
You get
Chinooks? No. We just get super cold or super hot. Yeah. Chinooks are reserved for all the cool Albertans, the Calgarians. Yeah, in Edmonton, we just get burn your ass off, freeze your balls off. It's somewhere in between.
We get breaks every 2 weeks. We had those who don't know what a Chinook is an environmental thing where every so often this cold, this warm air from the Pacific comes in, I believe. And then I don't know, you get some kind of weird effect where you see double clouds, but the atmospheric pressure changes. And in Calgary, if you live in Calgary, you would feel this every so often. Like some people are fairly sensitive to this, where the weather changes, but it changes very extreme. I mean, you gotta have 4 seasons in one day in Calgary.
Hold on a second here. You just described my first marriage. Okay, sorry. And you're probably out there listening to this. That was just a little joke. Okay, don't be so sensitive. Okay, so the different types of headaches, guys, back to seriousness, is that headaches, but it could be, like in the ear. So all the meridians like the gallbladder, the liver, the bladder, and go through here over the ear. And then down through here is your large intestine, lung, small intestine coming through here. So it literally could be malfunctions in your organs causing the meridians to pull. And we can talk more about that. So basically, the way for us to look at it is, let's remove the external conditions that could be causing constriction in the body, which can cause headache, the head's aching. So if you have a tight muscle here, and it's tight in your shoulder, you get a shoulder ache. So you have a tight muscle here, or tight fascia, really, because muscles don't get tight. And then you have a headache. So let's eliminate that first. And in our Fascial Maneuvers number 10, where we did the head, all the head work, that should usually get rid of headaches. And if it doesn't get rid of headaches there, then there's the non-surgical facelift, which you can get by referring 25 people. And if that doesn't remove a headache, we are in the world of BrainMechanics.
Yeah, we can do all kinds of crazy things. Like you can do brain entrainment, so we can actually change the brain frequencies that actually can change the pressure in your brain. So things like light or pulses of electromagnetic things like
internal pressure. Yeah.
Internal pressure.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, it's a big discussion with us because it's internal pressure that moves the body. So it's internal pressure that moves the brain. Because remember, it's pressure, skull moving. So we're constantly moving pressure, so it's a dysregulation of internal. So if all the bones, it's constituted here, and the bones are moving on one side more than the other, what that does is it causes pressure on this side and expansion on this side.
Oh, yeah, interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so when something doesn't move, it hurts.
Well, it's a body's sign to tell you something's happening there, right?
Yeah. When something doesn't move, it hurts. Actually, hold on a second here. That explains.
You might be into something here.
That explains our children these days. Yeah, but it's like you're sitting on the couch, it's like, oh, there's so much pain. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not moving. Okay, yeah, so there's other reasons though.
Yeah, like in migraines, for example, we work with clients where, might be environmental factors with, like using, for example, green lights or even green glasses, We've had folks actually had chronic migraines and just changing the light spectrum.
Do you know what the light spectrum, when you put green, I'm not sure if you know this, but when you see green, do you know that it affects the heart?
Interesting.
Yes, because there's science behind this.
Yeah.
As you know, Okay, first of all, got scientists here. There is science behind chakras. We can actually put films and big cameras. Now there's a difference between the science of how chakras and they work, and the people go, your chakra is not aligned. Let me align it. And my name is Chakra Girl. And I'm like, that's really chakra-y. So
or as compared to evidence-based chakra work.
Yeah, right? evidence-based chakra work. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, you can change the frequency of the brain, and the reason why I believe that's happening from our point of view is that when you actually observe more green, you're actually activating the emotional center of the heart, which is the green chakra. And then blue for the throat. And so when we want people to speak more, you put blue glasses on.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
maybe the issue is an emotional issue that they're just manifesting.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. You're a scientist about the brain, but don't you believe everything is an emotional issue?
Well, I think.
Or do you believe that? Sorry.
Well, I would say that you got a program like I'm not good enough. It's tied to an emotion. That emotion is tied, like it's stored somewhere in the body, in the fascia, right?
Yeah.
But I believe that the emotions are boiled down to sensation and the reaction to the sensation. So I think the programming happens when you have that reaction with either craving, I want more of it, or aversion, I don't like it.
Yeah,
so you might have a headache, and your headache became the pain that you have in the headache is a physical pain because of some physiological thing, but then there's a mental component, and your headache might be a 10 or an 8 in the spectrum, but when you remove the mental component, that programming, you reprogram that part of it, that pain becomes a 2 or 3.
Right. So that's what we say is that the stress makes pain elevate. So we always say a 3 pain under stress when adrenaline, noradrenaline, norepinephrine, come into the body. A 3 pain becomes a 6 to an 8. Now that makes complete sense in the way you just explained it, because it basically, if I like for example somebody who stresses about not sleeping. Or here's one for you guys. If you're having erectile dysfunction, listen. Tell you what,
It's a big problem.
Well, some people it's a small problem, but I try to deal with this once. When I was younger, I took Viagra, but I don't like taking water, so I got it caught in my throat, and I couldn't get out of my throat. And the next thing you know, 20 minutes later, I had a stiff neck for 4 hours. No, but okay. So, but the sociological.
It wouldn't stop, right?
It wouldn't stop. Yeah, if you have a stiff neck for more than 4 hours, call your doctor.
Yeah.
So, all kidding aside, the emotional response to a body issue not working creates fear and stress.
It's a feedback loop.
Yeah,
And it multiplies
Yeah.
the effect. And then so it's like tinnitus, right? You have something that happened, physiological, you're hearing the sound, a whole bunch of different things, because what happens is you get into that stress, you know, the fight or flight part of the response, you know, and then that can actually tell your cells, activate part of your cells, that actually puts in something called cell danger response.
Cell danger response,
So your mitochondrial level.
Yeah, mitochondria.
Like, so now you're talking about metabolic dysfunction of things that actually, now you're in this.
So cell danger response is like, whoa, that instantaneously, because the vibration of change at a rapid pace causes cell danger response and mitochondrial function. That's why like a boom or a shock. It doesn't matter how many times. That's with all these. We deal with a lot of SEALs and Rangers, and there's probably a few of them going to watch this. Clients, and you know, you listen. We're going on a hike and just before we go up this hike in California, car backfires, and the guy we're with was he's like 20 tours. He's like hits the ground, and he hits the ground, and goes into a panic, and then you know, and listen, I mean, it was in front of a bunch of people, and that's such a triggered response.
Oh yeah, that used to happen. My dad, he fought in Vietnam, and he went to Hawaii to meet my mom, and that 4th of July had fireworks.
Oh yeah,
he had fireworks, and he dug underneath the car.
Yeah.
On fireworks.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm checking something underneath the car. I think there's something, you know." But he was literally, you know, like reacting to what he had done in war. Right?
Yeah. And you know, and all kidding aside, it's a really serious issue. I mean, for those who, my PTSD, and I have some PTSD, some emotional ones, like when somebody triggers me and says I'm not, like when there's a response challenges my intellect. It's like the defense mechanism goes in, no, and I start firing intellectual bullets at them, you know, and I've been working with my best friend Dan, who has been telling me to stop defending, stop proving, you know, and yes, for those of you who know me, I've defended and proved a lot, but I'm also, to my defense, we're in a world where we're cutting through a jungle that no one's ever gone before. You're doing it in the brain, and I'm doing the body. And I know I love your approach. You're democratizing the science, the evaluative science. And then, because if you democratize the evaluative science, if it's instead of $15,000, it's like $1,500, then you can have 10 times or 100 times the people doing it, and it draws more data. The problem is that that a lot of the things that we do to evaluate the body are so expensive. That's why we stopped using physical evaluation, because the expense and then the fact that it's inaccurate because it only gives you snapshots. That's why we do a gait analysis. That's why we look at tone and language, and we ask questions like noise coherence, right? Like, how do you feel with that difference? Do you feel lighter in your body, and do you walk different? So we're looking for physical evaluation, because at the end it doesn't matter what a lab test says. Lab test says you're ready to die and you can feel okay.
Well, lab tests are good just because it might be like a milestone that you do, like
it's good as a reference.
Yeah, reference,
but not as good as a reference to inform why I feel the way. But I find
waypoint kind of.
So here's one. Everybody has a back pain, and neck pain, shoulder pain, hip pain. They always go get an X-ray or an MRI. So here's the fact. After doing this over 10,000 times, here's the results. 80% of the time, there is no evidence on the X-ray or the MRI why they feel the pain. Now we believe it's because they're X-raying musculoskeletal action and it's in the fascia.
Hmm.
But again, it's a form of evaluation that 80% of the time says there's no reason, but we still do it. And that happens a lot in the application of science in medicine. That's a very, very common thing. Like lab tests, I don't see why you're feeling that way. It's very, very, very common. And this is part of what you're. I mean, you get.
But the guy's telling you he's feeling this way, like.
Yeah, but you get that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, by the time they get to you, a lot of those situations are that discussion, are they?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we tell people that what we're doing is we're actually doing citizen science. Like I'm wearing an NASA shirt, but we're citizen scientists. Like we're teaching people to become citizen science.
I like that. Dan, Dan, who does all our marketing branding from Wild Branding, my best friend in the world. Can I be a citizen scientist now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, because he says you're not a scientist, you're not a doctor.
That's right.
And I'm like, okay, now I have a designation, citizen scientist.
Hey,
We are citizen scientists. Yeah.
That's right. That's how we roll. And we share the information with people. Open source health, open source wellness.
And that's what we're doing. And I'm so excited about what you're doing, how that's going to impact the studies that we're doing. Because what we do, we feel good. People feel good. They have amazing experiences, but there is no quantification. But you have the ability to quantify.
Absolutely. And it's going to be really fascinating to.
Sorry, fascinating.
Fascinating. It's very fascinating.
It's very fascinating. As you quantify the fascinating experience, you can publish that data and in our app. You can publish that data. In our
And
app.
we'll make it. Would that make me a fascist?
Oh, that's a good question. Anti-fascist.
Anti-fascist.
Oh no, that would make you a
La
liberal.
revolution, no?
No, that'd be a liberal.
Oh, liberal. Oh,
Anti-fascist.
Yeah, I think what we are humanists. Like I think what we're doing is we're sharing therapies and technology to help people become better humans.
Yeah, I agree.
At the end of the day, that's what we're doing. Technology-wise, that's what BrainMechanics does.
But we're doing it first on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Like we are the best guinea pigs, and our science, my science is me.
Have you signed a waiver yet?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. It was I did. I did sign a waiver. It was like.
Was that a mutual waiver? Or?
Was it mutual? Yeah. So I did sign a waiver when I came for this journey of life, and I was up there, and my soul was up there in this place called heaven, or wherever it was, or the field, or the universe, or the spirit, or the known planet, whatever. I made an arrangement. I went to my Earth tour guide, and I said, I want to have a life where I'm beat up, I have multiple relationships, I deal with addiction, I find a way to help myself and help others, and I want to live in Canada, I want to be a data guy, I want to move to the United States. And they go, oh yeah, hold on, I got the parents for you.
You got the masochist plan though, right?
I got the masochist plan.
Sounds like
That's it, we picked the same plan. So listen, guys, we've had a great time here talking, and we got a couple more days of scientific research, because I'm not the scientist to use.
I'm a citizen scientist. I just signed a waiver. Yeah, that's right. That's what we are.
So that's what I say. Oh, you're not a scientist. Citizen scientist. Citizen scientist. You're not a doctor.
No.
Citizen doctor. Doctor means
That'd be cool to actually call each other doctor, like.
Doctor. Okay, I'll call you doctor. Doctor. Doctor means educator, and we've lost the education and we've become dictators. I mean, seriously, with all respect to all my friends who are doctors, I'm not beating you up. It's a cultural thing where we start telling people rather than educating people. And I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. You are absolutely, I've worked with so many brain scientists and brain institutes all over, and I'm not even going to mention them, but you know who they are. And they're just producing more of the old. And you're cutting a path by making things accessible to people, and by being willing to share your open information, just as I believe I am. And I believe between us, we're going to be able to really, really make a difference in lives, because generally, if we get the stress out of the body, the fascia, then, and if there's still a problem, then come in. We need work. We need a practitioner. We need a scientist. And so you'll be available in our app. You can go to we can go to your website, which is
BrainMechanics.io and also BrainMechanics.org. So we got the non-for-profit BrainMechanics.org, where we're building the foundation of open source health, and then we have BrainMechanics.io where we're helping folks on a wellness journey.
And you have scientists and doctors and practitioners all over working, right?
We do, yeah. We're in 11 countries right now. We've got, soup to nuts. Like we've got a collection of folks, but I just have to say that we're focusing on wellness. We're trying to help folks stop, but
Live a better life.
live a better life. But even then, I would say that Alzheimer's patients need wellness. Tinnitus patients need wellness. Everybody deserves to actually thrive in their life, and that's what we enable at BrainMechanics.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And so you can go to your website, but to engage with our clientele in our app, the best place to gauge if you're okay with this would be in our app. You'll have a personal profile, so you can send you messages, and BrainMechanics will have a company profile, and people will follow you. People ask questions. Our app is a place where we can share stuff. I mean, even right now, we said the C word, we said the P word.
Is that compassion?
Yeah, compassion and COVID. And then the P word is pesticides and peace. And and so we've used all the bad words which are limiting our feed. We know that now. But the ones who hear this, please do me a favor. If you have people that have tinnitus, brain function disorder, and they have chronic sleep disorders, they have chronic pain in their body, in any way, shape, or form, share this video with them, please, because it's our ability as people to help other people, and the way that we do that is by taking unfiltered, uncensored information and sharing it. There's no agenda behind this. The Human Garage is now in a foundation, and we are giving up our intellectual property for free, and we're monetizing the training of people to help people so that we can give more information for free. And we're working together, and so they'll be able to follow you in the app where it's completely uncensored. We have moderators, and if you're a bully on our app forum and you wanna yell about all the reasons why something's not working, we'll have any discussion. But if you bully people, we're gonna send you to school in our app. It's a little school how to be a good Human Garage corporate citizen, or Human Garage citizen. And then if you pass the school, you come back out and you bully again, you're gone. So for those of you who want to share, I felt that even me having the specific knowledge, I'd say something that I knew to be true. I have tests, and then I have like 1,600 people that have never ever set foot. They know anything about medicine or health. They haven't done 30 years worth of research that I've done, and they're now challenging and saying, no, that's not true because of these things. And I'm like, yeah, you got your science off TV. We got our science in the field. We got our science touching people.
That's right.
Oh, sorry. That sounds
Citizen scientists.
Yeah, that sounded weird. We got our science working with people touching themselves. No, that sounds weird.
So, Daria, I just want to say, so first, thank you for, I accept your blessings, I accept your well wishes, and I also want to thank you for your life's work. Like your life's work is really, trailblazing and enabling us like BrainMechanics to be able to participate and commune with you.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think honestly you're really building something that's gonna, the world needs right now healing at large scale, and I think that just this sounded silly to me initially, but what you're teaching people to do, it's such a powerful thing that can really help people at scale, like really just help them. So thank you for enabling that. And I really, from my heart, just want to thank you, and just being who you are. Thank you. We love you.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, since it's COVID, can I have a? Yeah, this is the best part.
Love you, man. Love you, love.
Okay, changing the world together.
Absolutely. We love you guys. Peace.
Peace.